Hiya loves and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am mega excited to be reviewing Life of Pi today, which is currently on in the West End. It was one of the most adventurous pieces of theatre I have seen in a long time. It's definitely up there with one of the most, I don't even know, it's just engaging but in a really exciting way that we haven't really seen before in the West End. Without further ado, let me read the synopsis to you. After a cargo ship sinks in the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean, a 16-year-old boy named Pi is stranded on a lifeboat with 4 other survivors: a hyena, a zebra, an orangutan, and a Royal Bengal tiger. Time is against them. Nature is harsh. Who will survive? If you're not already enamoured with that little synopsis, then I don't know why you're watching this video. Winner of 5 Olivier Awards, including Best New Play, Life of Pi is based on one of the most extraordinary and best loved works of fiction. The smash hit adaptation of an epic journey of endurance and hope. I would absolutely agree with that, and after watching the show I can completely understand why it got Best New Play at the Olivier Awards. Let's delve into it. Let me tell you what I think of this show, because I feel like I've got so many things to say. I was very curious to see how different elements of the show would be translated to stage. I had recently watched the film, which I loved, but I mean, watching a film and then watching a stage adaptation are two vastly different things. Within the play, there are moments of incredibly rich storytelling. I think it is such a massive focus of the show. So if you're a theatre lover, I think you will really engage with it well because of that. Both the stage and audio visual design were absolutely beautiful, and it has to be said that the lifelike puppetry was a real highlight of the performance. It gave it a whole new sense of sort of intrigue. It made it incredibly dynamic to watch. There were so many different layers to it which just really brought it to life in a way that had you on the edge of your seat. It was really, I was transfixed. I loved it. So the role of Pi, which was played by Nguyen Hugh Pereira, played the role inquisitively. I thought he had this real sense of complete and utter honesty. He was very frank in the way he spoke and conveyed himself. I really connected with his characterization actually. I thought his delivery of Pi was perfect, really. Great casting for that role, I thought. The role itself is incredibly demanding, both emotionally and physically, as you know, he does essentially survive a ship wreck. He's the only living survivor, so to experience that as a person is such a vast thing, a hugely demanding thing to go through. I thought he played it really well and convincingly as well. You know, there was this sort of element of PTSD and trauma that he really put across on stage in just a really physically engaging way, that you believed him. You believed that he had all of this trauma going on in his mind and this tension within his body. Really amazing. I loved as well the sort of sounds and the physicalization that the Puppeteers brought to the stage whilst using and moving their puppets. It felt very authentic, as if they had found their interpretation very organically. Of course, a special mention has to go to the Puppeteers that moved the tiger. There were 3 of them. I was amazed by that. Oh, Richard Parker, should I say, which of course is the name of the tiger. A very striking and crucial part of the story and show. There were moments with the tiger where I couldn't blink. I was so focused on the movements and everything, and I found that it was done so well that very rarely did I look at the Puppeteers and, you know, them moving rather than the tiger, which is always a good sign. Pi's performance, the tiger's performance, and the overall stage design really brought this story to life. I mean, we sort of moved from this very clinical hospital bear room to the zoo in India, which was so incredible incredibly detailed. I loved the colour palette. We then moved to a ship, which of course was very sort of dark. You had lots of different props and pieces of set that just moved onto stage effortlessly. It so easily adapted into a different setting. And then finally we ended up at sea with Pi and Richard Parker. It was all incredibly believable. It was quite clear actually that they'd really taken their time to think it all out and make it as authentic as possible. As I mentioned there, the overall sort of colour palettes used within the show were brilliant. Again, it made it very dynamic, it made it engaging to the eye, and you didn't want to take your eyes away from the stage, which of course is what you want with a show like this. The sounds, the audio visual, it really created, well, an atmosphere really. It made you feel like you were there. It gave you a feeling of uncertainty, like what's going to happen next. And I think this show in particular does have that kind of uncertainty running through the whole show. So to encapsulate that within the design so well only made you want to watch it until the very last minute. Like, I genuinely don't think I blinked more than like 3 times. Another thing actually, and it was a very small detail, but again it sort of tied the performances in with the audio visual. When, say, there was a crash of waves against the ship, every single actor within the ensemble moved in the same way and at the same time. You believed that they were on a ship. You believed that they'd just been hit by this huge wave within this storm. An absolute kudos to the designers for making it so beautiful. Now, I have to mention the Revolve on the stage, from which Pi's boat ascends. It was so seamless, in fact, that during the first act, I don't remember seeing it ascend from the Revolve in the stage. It was actually during the interval that my partner said, "Did you see the boat come up?" And I was like, what? When did that happen? It was just so slick the way it had been done. There was this absolutely like jaw-dropping moment in Act 2 when Pi jumps from the boat into the sea, and suddenly you're like, what is going to happen now? He disappeared through this tiny little flap in the front of the stage to the right, and then reappeared through this other flap on the left-hand side of the stage and looked as if he was swimming. And then he reappeared to the right and sort of got back into the boat, and I was just like, oh my god, I've never seen that done before on stage. It felt like a real moment of bravery from the actor for being able to do that to begin with, because you have to put a massive amount of trust in your designers and your ensemble as well to be able to do that and have the courage to do that. But I just thought, for the design team to be able to come up with a concept like that made that moment in the story possible is so inventive, it's so original, and that is something, again, I know I touched on this before, but we haven't really seen something as sort of bold and brave like that in the West End. Yeah, I just thought it was a really inventive use of the space. Now, there were some other really standout moments within the show performances as well. I really enjoyed the cook, who also doubled as the voice of Richard Parker. So that was Kazim Tassin Amour, I think that's how you say it, I hope it is, who, I just thought he had an excellent stage presence. He was really enticing to watch. His energy was fantastic. I thought he was really engaged with both characters in a way that was actually a little bit kind of menacing at times, but in a really good way, because I think it contrasted Pi's energy really well. You had Kevin Shen, who played the interviewer, Mr. Okamoto. Now, the interviewer is trying to find out Pi's story so that he can close this case about this shipwreck, because, as I said, Pi is the only living survivor and he wants to be able to share his story and sort of close the case and say this is what happened. I don't know what it was about his performance, but I did think that, especially during the first act, he was probably one of the weaker members of the ensemble. I found his performance lacked a lot of depth, especially within the first sort of 10-15 minutes of the show. That's a moment where you really want to engage with what you're watching because it makes you want to continue watching. And I didn't really get that with his character, which was a little bit of a shame. However, in the second act, I did feel like his performance improved, so that was great. Another interesting performance actually was from Amit Chana, who played Pai's father. He's a very authoritative figure within the sort of first half of the film and in the story. He's very stern. The mother, on the other hand, really contrasts that energy, and she's very loving. She's the one that the children turn to, I would say, more often than not. I don't know what it was about Chana's performance, but when he came back in the second act in this sort of dreamlike state where Pai's been at sea for days and days and days, and he's sort of speaking to him, there was a really warm nature and energy about the way he characterised that. I thought it was very heartwarming, it was very rich. I liked how he delivered that. But in the first act, he didn't really have as much authority as I would have liked to have seen in that role. I also felt that he was a little bit young to be playing the role of the father. Like, he had a very youthful look about him, which of course is a massive compliment to him as an actor, but I don't know, I kind of wanted somebody that both looked and sounded a little bit older perhaps, and had that sense of wisdom about him. You know, there's a reason why he's being so stern, why he's telling him not to do X, Y and Z. But yeah, I thought in the second act, the father character was played beautifully. And I have to end on this because it was such a wonderful way to sort of round off this play. Pai asks the interviewer, you know, you've heard two versions of the story, which did you prefer? The reason why he told two versions of the story is because the interviewer didn't believe the first one. He was like, that's not possible. What you're saying isn't possible. So when Pai retells the story, it's exactly the same, but with human beings. And somehow, because it's with human beings, it includes human beings, it becomes more believable. And that moment at the end where he says, you know, I've told you the two stories and which did you prefer? He says the one with the animals, and I was like, that moment for me, it sort of brought into question how we view stories, how we interpret stories, and sort of how we engage with storytelling as well, because how willing are you to imagine things that, you know, you maybe don't think are possible, or things that you've not experienced or seen before? How willing are you to let your imagination go? Proving that if your imagination can go there and you let it go there, you can imagine things that maybe seem impossible or you don't think are real. I just thought it's making me really emotional thinking about it, but it made me feel very thoughtful in that moment. And I like that. I like that sense of, it put me in a position where I started to think about what I believe in. And of course there are themes within the show of religion, and Pai experimenting in 3 different religions and trying to practice them all at the same time. It really brought into the spotlight, I guess, how we as a society treat religion and different religions. Having a conversation about that within such a contemporary show, and sort of making a little bit of a mockery of people arguing about it when really we're all believing in something, whether it's we believe in nothing or we believe in a god. You know, there are different gods in different religions, but ultimately we're all still having a faith in something. Just amazing. 5 stars from me. Go and watch it. I really want to go and see it again. And before I go, I have to show you the merchandise that I got, because I actually thought that their merchandise was really unique as opposed to a lot of other shows that are currently in the West End. I would actually like to get the little tiger ornament that they have because I thought it was beautiful. But I got a little Life of Pi pin badge, which has got obviously it's got Pi on the boat, and then it's got the outline of Richard Parker, the tiger, behind him. Really loved that. I got a programme as well, and I got a tote bag, you know, because I needed another one. How lovely is that design? I'm sorry, but like, I couldn't say no to that. I love tigers as well. I love big cats. I just thought the colours, the design, everything, I just thought it was lovely. Yes, please go and book a ticket before it closes. Like, do not miss this show. I would be really, really sad for you if you didn't get to see it. Anyway, that's the end of this review. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I certainly did. I got very emotional, very excited about doing this video for you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all very soon.